Hi, it's Karen at RT Systems, and we're going to look at some real basics about the programs today and show you how the RT Systems programmers can help you know how best to organize your information in your radio. What does it offer so you can be organized and help you get the best use out of that radio? Think about it. Organization is the key. We're going to start with the FT8800. What I want to show you is how it compares to others. So when you look at the programmer for that radio, you can have some idea of which way you're going. So the 8800, down here at the bottom of the screen, you recognize this screen for memory channels, but I have left memory channels, I have right memory channels. They look the same. It's a double display on the radio. It's left and right. It is two brains. Let's find another one here. Here's a Bofang. We're going to work with an untitled file, and this untitled file comes with data in it. And this is a GMRS, and notice how the programmer gives you extra information. So you have the list of GMRS frequencies in case you need to reference it or use them. But this has one bucket of memories and one VFO. And the VFOs are kind of pointless because if you get into VFO and you turn the knobs, you change the frequency. What you're really interested in are memories. And if I look over here, I don't see any banks. Now we're into another Yaesu, and this is the FT3D. We have two displays on that radio, but we have one bucket of memories. That means when you program your radio, top and bottom are going to be the same, unless you go to special measures of putting things in banks and putting the top on one bank and the bottom on another bank. Let's look at a Kenwood. In a default file, this is the F6. They're handheld, which is great radio. I mean, considering it listens on HF. But again, it has one bucket of memories. It has an A and a B band, and it just so happens that it doesn't do as many bands on B, and your VFO will tell you that. A does 2 meters, 220, and 70 centimeters, with some of that probably being listen only. VFO-B does all of this, with many of those being listen only. But notice how many more bands you can do in the B band that you can't do in the A band. Now, I said something about the VFOs not being very helpful. They're not really much good to program here, because as I said, when you send them to the radio and you turn the knob, whatever you put in the programmer is lost. There's no one button recall, but they are a storehouse of information. A does 3 bands, B does all of these. And that affects how your memories work. You can stack them in here any way you want, but if you're in the top part of the display, you're going to see those 3 bands. And if you're in the bottom part of the display, you're going to see them all. Something to realize about your radio that the programmer will show you. Let's do an Icom. This is the 7100. And I have a page of memories. I think they're 99 on here. That's something else the programmer does for you. How many memory channels does this radio have? We get asked that question all the time. First thing I do is open the program and scroll down. I have 99, but I have band A, band B, band C, band D, band E. I have 99 of them 5 times. Organization. You isolate off different activities so that when you're in that activity, those are the only channels you have to deal with. The 2730, another Icom, which has a left and right display, but one bucket of memories, which means you're going to display the same on the left as you do on the right. If you want it different than that, set up banks. It would only take 2 on this one to have one bank on the left and a different bank on the right, and get isolation in your channels the way you want them. The DJG7. This is an Alinco radio, and this one is just a hoot, because look at the numbers: 000, 47, 48, 49. Well, that led me to believe there's got to be a 001 down here. Looks like banks to me. 002. Which means if you want to separate off into banks, you would fill in the zeros, maybe the first 10, and the ones, maybe the first 20, and on from there. That's how you would get your separation here. Then we go into a digital radio, a programmer for a digital radio. This happens to be the DJ MD5, and it's filled with memory channels because it has 4,000. That's quite a grid to build. But down here at the bottom, it has memories and it has zones. DMR. It's a much more complicated file to build for programming your radio. What we've done to help are 2 things. I can put it in analog mode and I lost all those digital columns, or I can put it in digital mode and I lose all the analog columns. Anything that's needed for both is still there. So with that, I don't have to deal with all those columns that I don't know what to do with anyway. The other is the new DMR Calculator. The calculator makes it easy for you to set up all those channels for all those talk groups you've imported. No longer do you have to do them one at a time. Let's say my frequency is 145.650. My transmit frequency is 145.050. It's minus offset. The name, I'm just going to let it use the talk groups as the names. And I want it in zone 1, which has used 2 of 250. And I'm going to select all these talk groups with one click. I'm going to select a zone and tell it to apply. You can see what it's doing on the screen. It's building those right in there. It'll let me know when it's finished. There were a lot of them. And it's done. I didn't point out, but remember to set your color code in your repeater slot. But if you don't, let's go to digital, like I showed you, and let's go to repeater slot. And what if this guy were on repeater slot 2 instead of 1? In other software, you would be opening each of these channels one at a time to make this change. You would be opening each of these channels one at a time to assign these talk groups. But in this, I can change this to 2, Press Control C, Shift down arrow because it's easier to make it stay in the one column, and Control V, and guess what? They're all now in repeater slot 2. And what if they were color code 5? You find that out later after you've done all this work. Change the first one, Control C, Shift down arrow, Control V, and now they are all color code 5 for that repeater. They're digital. You're going to see the name of your talk group as you need it. And they are in the zone. Let's do it this way. They are in the zone. That's ready to go to the radio and use. So with that, creating these files is a whole lot easier. Then there are HF radios that don't have as many functions when it comes to a memory channel. One bucket of memories. What's important here are the settings. All the settings that you go through with those radios. You can capture that radio at a state that you like it. And then if you mess with it a whole lot during a contest or field day or when band conditions are different, instead of having to return to a reset, you can return to a time when you know the radio was operating the way you wanted it to. One other thing to consider on our site is when I go to a manufacturer and I go to a radio, this click here for more information. You can find it here, and you can find it on the page with the product right down here. Scroll down a little. There's lots of good information down here. And when this page comes up, it tells you what all the options are for a memory channel, tells you what kind of memories you have in the programmer, tells you how many memory channels and limit memories and DR memories. Gives you an idea of what all the pages look like. Then it shows you the settings screens. And yes, these are small, but you can just see how many you have to work with. That radio has so many options, just page after page. So it gives you an idea, what does this radio do? Some good review information while you're deciding on your next rig. So I hope I've given you something to think about. And remember, the programmer can tell you a lot about the radio you're considering getting, and you can decide if it's really going to work for what you need. This is Karen, KD4DXX, and remember, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. 73s.